This video is being sponsored by DataCamp. I have this Galaxy Tab dashboard sitting on my desk, and I use this on a daily basis while I'm working from my home office to keep tabs on what's going on around my house. I'm going to show you step by step on how I build this dashboard. It's going to be a multi-part series because there's a lot of stuff going on here. We'll go through some various different types of cards, and I'll go through a little bit of detail on how each of those are used. So make sure you subscribe so you know when I make those follow-up videos to this one on this dashboard. So let's get started in building the dashboard. This is the dashboard that I use on a daily basis, as I mentioned. And what we have here are things that are most important for me to be able to see kind of as a command center or whatever while I'm sitting at my desk. Things like doors that are left open, lights that are on, if I want to know the outside temperature and things like that. So let's just go through each one of these things real quick, and then we'll talk about how we build those. So this is the status of the alarm panel. These two are my gate sensors. These are just regular door sensors. This is a toggle mode that I can set. And I can set this, and it's really not necessary on this dashboard, but I left it there just in case I wanted to see if it was ever toggled. But when I go on vacation, I'll set this mode, and it causes certain automations to run and others to not run. For example, it doesn't disarm the alarm system automatically and that kind of thing. This is my work mode button. When I press that button, then it sets all my lights and everything so that I'm ready to go to work. Down here, we have a series of switches for lighting. So holiday lighting, trees, all that kind of stuff. A couple of different switches and statuses for garage power and my attic air handler. A bunch more light switches down here. We've got outside temperature, humidity settings, and this is my cough bulb in the office. More weather-related information, winds, rains, my temperature sensors for my refrigerator and freezer, temperature sensors around the house. These are two automation buttons. These are PBX buttons that tell me the status of my PBX or phone system. This is a home feed card, sensors for motion in various places around the house, sensors for motion on cameras, the status of my Samba backup. We also have cameras up here, and these cameras trigger a snapshot or show a snapshot whenever there's activity detected on the cameras. These show the status of my Roku devices. These show the status of my Nest devices. We've got my Flume water sensors here. Washing machine status, which is an appliance, kind of an appliance plug sensor. And of course, my radio stuff up here. I've got radio power supply, radio power supply voltage, radio power supply temperature, radio heat sink temperature, and then the radio whether or not it's transmitting. Before we get into building the dashboard, let me talk a moment about DataCamp. As you know, Home Assistant takes data and stores it in your database and pulls it from all these sensors that are going on around your environment. Well, what if you could do something with that data? DataCamp has over 350 courses that allow you to visualize, manipulate, and make data-driven decisions based on data that you have coming in. In fact, you can even start a new career using DataCamp's courses to become data certified and data fluent. You don't have to be an expert to use these courses. DataCamp has courses all the way from newbies to seasoned pros. Even seasoned pros can learn something new from DataCamp's courses. So what if you don't know where to start? Well, that's good news because DataCamp has a self-assessment that allows you to know where you're at, and they can tailor your learning from that self-assessment. It's time to invest in yourself and unlock new career opportunities, or even take new skills into your Home Assistant or your data-driven environment. Use the link below in the description and you'll have access to the first chapter of every one of DataCamp's courses for free. So go check it out. Let's get into building the dashboard now. And the first step is to click on Edit Dashboard. And these are all views up here, by the way. This is the dashboard, a view in a dashboard. So your dashboards can contain multiple views. We're just going to add a new view here. And this new view, we're just going to call it Demo. And we're going to put an icon on here. And the cool thing about Home Assistant now is that they have added a drop-down that allows you to select from all of the list of available icons. And I'm just going to pick a random one here just for the fun of it. Let's just do a ceiling light. I don't know. You can choose whatever you want through that entire list. And I'm going to leave the view type as masonry. We'll save it. And of course, now it has a blank slate for you to start with. So clicking on Add Card is our first step. Now, this is the part where you have to kind of think about your design a little bit ahead of time. On the dashboard, you saw that I had 3 columns. Well, those 3 columns are built using grid cards. They're actually nested grid cards. So the first thing I want to do is I want to add the first grid card. And this will be the grid card that contains the first column of information, the first column of other cards. It will only have one column, and it's not going to be rendered as a square. Now, in that first grid card, I'm going to add another grid card because on that other dashboard, you'll remember I have a series of buttons across the top, and I'm going to put those buttons inside its own grid card. So let's go with grid card again here. And for the grid card, now we're going to start adding buttons to that grid card. And I know that that first grid card is going to be 5 different cards. So I can go ahead and make this 5 columns, but you can always change this later on when you start building stuff. The first card I'm going to add is going to be a button card. And you can see here that it selects, or it shows you what a button card looks like. And the entity, and this is where it gets nice for using the UI. You can just kind of select things. The entity here is going to be my alarm control panel. So I'll just start typing the name, alarm control panel. So here's my alarm control panel. And I'm going to give it a name, and it's called DSC. As you can see, it'll start rendering these cards up here as you go along. So you can see what's happening as you type it. Now you can choose an icon as well. This one I'll leave as default because the default icon is the alarm icon. I can show a name, I can show a state, and I typically don't show the state because I know by the color or view of the icon what it looks like. And then I can choose an icon height if I want to. Okay, so I'm going to add my second card, and that second card is going to be added by just clicking a plus here. And what that does is it puts it in the same row as everything else. Now, the second card is a custom button card. There isn't a UI for the custom button card, so we're going to have to do some YAML editing here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the code from my original card, and we'll talk about what the settings are for the card, so you don't have to watch me type it all. And I'm just going to paste it in here. And I'm going to have to fix the indentation because I copied it from the other screen. And I'm just going to select it all. And if you hold Control and then the left bracket on your keyboard, it will move the whole block of what you have over. Now you can see what we have. We have this North Gate icon, or this North Gate button here. So we already know it's a custom button card. It's a binary sensor that is an on or off, which in this case happens to be a door sensor put on a gate. The name is North Gate, as you see here. And then I gave it an icon of a gate. And then the tap action, when you tap on it, you get more info because there's nothing to do on this kind of button. It doesn't turn anything on or off. Show state is false, so I don't need to know whether or not it's closed or open, on or off. I just will see that from the icon. And then the card itself, the opacity is 50%. That means when it's inactive or off, it's 50% opacity or opacity. I think it's opacity. Height is 102 pixels, and I had to adjust the pixels to fit on the screen. Sometimes you have to give it a height designation, and other times you don't. The icon color is white, and it's a little gray because the opacity is 50%. The name, it's 12 pixels, and the color's white. Again, here's the name, 12 pixels, the color's white. And then the state value, whenever the state goes to a value of on, I want the gate, the icon to change to gate open. I want the style to become red, so it turns the background red. The filter is 100%, so instead of being an opacity of 50%, it makes it 100%. I probably could omit that as the default. The height, again, is 102 pixels, so if you change the height here, you need to change the height here. And then I want it to blink for 2 seconds. Ease means slowly, so it kind of does this like pulsing. And then infinite, so it'll do it forever while the gate is open. It sets my icon color to white, and my name color to white as well. And what that does is when the gate is open, this will turn red and kind of flash a little bit on and off, on and off. Now the next button, again, is the same one. It's the same kind of card. So we'll do exactly the same thing we did a minute ago. We'll just add a new column, and then we will paste in the data. I need to find the button card here first. We'll put in a button card and we'll paste in our information, and we'll probably have to do some space editing. There we go. I'll color all or select all that and slide it back. There we go. And now we have another one, Southgate. Same exact thing. So we have those 3 cards. So for the next card, it's just a button card, and it's my vacay status. So I'm going to choose button card. I'm going to choose the entity as vacay status. And the name is going to be vacay. The icon, MDI tree. And then name will be shown, state's not shown, and then show the icon, yes. And we're not going to do anything else with this one. It just kind of displays it here. So here we are with our vacay status, and we have one more, because remember we have 5 columns set here. So with this one more column, and this one's going to be, again, a button card. We're going to give it a name. We're going to leave the entity blank. We're going to give it a name. The name is going to be work mode. The icon is going to be desk. And then we're show name, show state, and show icon. And this one's going to be a call service. So we're going to call the service here. And the service is going to be an automation. Automation turn on. And then the actual name of the automation is going to be, what we can do is pick an entity here, actually. And it's going to be workday setup. So let's go see if we can find workday setup here. It's hard to see. I know the name of it, but it doesn't. It kind of cuts it off when it displays the names of the automations, but we know it's workday setup. And that's all we're going to do for this button. And we'll see up here that we have work mode. So anytime you push that, it's going to do the call the work mode automation. So now we have the first row of that dashboard. So for the next column, we're going to add a grid. So we come up here, we've got, you remember we're nesting this stuff. So we have this column, or this grid card with one column. This grid card only has one column right now. It's this one right here, a row, not column, but row. And then we're going to add a second row. And it's going to put it below this row that we have right here. And for this one, we're going to add another grid card. And this is going to have 6 columns in it. So you can see right here that we have a blank. We don't want squares. So now it shrinks it a little bit. It'll make it bigger once we put something in there. And for this one, we're going to do a bunch of custom button cards. I'm going to do a couple of these, but I'm not going to show them all to you because they're very similar. That way you're not sitting here watching me type all this stuff in here. So again, we're going to just put in here what I did before, and we will fix the spacing, and I will show you what these things do. Custom button cards, once you get used to how they work, are pretty easy to use. Again, it's a custom button card. You can see it's the lock card is right here. The entity is a lock, front door lock. So it's my front door lock status. The name is front. So I abbreviated the name just because I wanted to fit on the card. The icon's a lock. The tap action is to toggle. So it will lock and unlock that door. Show state is false. Styles, card background color is green. So it stays green all the time unless it's unlocked, and then it turns red. Opacity is 70%, so it doesn't stand out. It makes a difference between green and red stand out a little bit more when you change the opacity. Font size 12 pixels, color is white. State is unlocked, or when the state becomes unlocked, it has a locked open icon. Background color of red, opacity of 100%, so it just really stands out in your face. And then it sets the icon and the name color to be white. And that's how all of those on that row are set up. So let me just go ahead and I'm going to add the rest of these in here, and I'll show you at the end what it looks like. Okay, so I've added all the rest of those cards. And again, they all look very similar. The color might be a little bit different on each one depending on what it does, but they're all custom button cards, and they all change color based on the state. So the locked, when they are unlocked, will turn red. When the garage door is open, it turns red. If the front or back door or fridge door are open, then all of those will turn red. It all has the same logic. It's all done the same way. Let's go through here. We have one row here. We have 2 rows here. These are the 2 rows. This row has 5 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This row has 6 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so let's see what's next in our list of stuff here. The next one is actually going to have 8 columns. So we'll do one more row. And again, this is a grid card. And this grid card is going to have 8 columns, non-squared. And for the first, for these are going to be buttons. And these are all of the light switches that are in the house. And I'll do a couple again and then fill the rest in for you so you don't have to watch me type the whole thing. So this is just a button card. Simple to use. The first one is actually going to be the holiday lights. So we'll find switch holiday lights JS, so the front one. So I call this one again HLDY to make it short. The icon is going to be, so I'm going to find a light bulb. And so here's our holiday light. It's currently off. The tap action is toggle. And I'm not going to set the height or anything on these. Let me do one more, and then I will do the rest for you and show you what it looks like at the end. So again, we're adding on this row, we're adding another button card. And this button card entity is actually going to be the trees. Now this is a group. And I have created a group to turn on multiple trees, multiple tree lights. So I don't have to turn them on individually, and they'll show whether or not any one of the trees in the group are on, the icon will change. This is, again, we'll call this trees. And this is actually a tree this time. I don't do the icon height. I don't do the theme. All that stays the same. Again, this is toggle. So that's the tree there. And you can see that it's on right now. So I see that the light is on for the trees. And if I go over here, I want to change this actually to a different string lights. There's a thing called string lights, since those are outside lights. So now you see it's here, and I can turn those on by clicking it. Now they turn on, and I can turn them back off by clicking it again. And that's basically how the rest of these work on this particular row. So let me fill them in for you, and I'll come back to you in just a moment. Okay, so you can see now that we've added the rest of these. There's a couple that are custom button cards. Those custom button cards are for the attic and the garage power, and I want those to do specific things based on their status. And we've already looked at the custom button cards above here. It's the same concept. I just want it to be, it's blue now. If it's normal, it's green if it's normal, and then it changes colors or whatnot. You can also see the garage got opened while we were doing this. So someone has opened the garage door, which is how this looks whenever it changes state. Okay, so the next thing up is going to be a whole nother set of buttons, and I'm going to throw those in there real quick. Same concept, buttons. We're going to just add a row here, and this row is going to be starting with a grid card. This grid card is going to have 8 again, and we'll make it non-square, and we'll start with a button card and do the whole thing. So I'll come back in just a minute. We'll have this whole other row filled out with the button cards. Okay, so we've put in, again, this row of cards, and these are all my light switches here. A bunch of them are currently on. And looking at the visual editor, once again, we have 8 columns, and each one of these cards has its own entity ID and settings, and that's all set up. Now, the next thing is going to be a different type of card, and this is called the big number card. Now, these custom button cards and big number cards, they have to be added into Home Assistant through HACS. If you're not using HACS, you probably should at some point, because there's a lot of extra stuff in there that you can add that makes your home assistant experience better. So make sure you add the big number card and you add the custom button card. If you need to know how to do that, look at my HACS video to start. And then if you have any questions about that, just let me know in the comments. Okay, so let's go ahead with the big number card, and we're going to add yet another row. And that's on this level here. Puts a row down below. Again, we're going to do a grid card. So start with a grid card here. And for this one, I believe it's 4 rows or 4 columns. And then we're going to start with a non-square as always. And the first one we're going to do is big number. And it does have a big number card, but again, we're going to have to do the YAML part of this. And we're going to have to define all the parts. So I'm going to pull in the configuration from the other side, and we will talk about what it is. Now, a lot of these cards are very flexible, and so I don't use all of the options for the card. So if you want to do something different or extra with the card, be sure and look up the card configuration information on GitHub or wherever it's at and do what you would like with it. So let me just copy this now, and we'll put it in this spot right here, right there, and we'll fix the spacing issues as we have done in the past. You can see here that we have the temperature displayed, and this is a big number card, so let's go through it. The entity is my outdoor temperature that I'm getting from my weather station using my EcoWit integration. Check out that video if you would like to know more about that. The title is outside, which is displayed here. From the bottom means it's going to fill from the bottom. If you fill from the left, it's going to start filling this from the left. I just like the look of it filling from the bottom even better. So scale is 30 pixels. If you change the scale, it's going to change the size of the card. I played around with it and figured out this is probably the best scale for me in my application. Hide unit is true. If you were to set that false, it would put in a this and it makes the card look ugly to me. I know what units of measurement I'm using for this card, so I don't need that. Rounding out, you can round the number of digits you would like. I leave it at 0. My minimum and maximum are the temperatures that I think will be the minimum and the maximum for the card, and that determines where it puts this fill at. If my minimum were 32 degrees, it means that I'm closer to the bottom than I am at 0. So you can set those to what you want. I think 115, if it gets that hot, we're going to start melting anyway, so who cares? And these are severity levels. I've defined 4 different severity levels here. I've got a value of 50, and up to 50, it's blue, which means it's kind of cool. From 51 up to 82, it's green, which is where we're at now. From 82 to 90, it's yellow. And from 90 to 115, it's red. And then the text color under the red is white. And it's all white the whole time. But you can specify a text color for each one of these different background colors. Sometimes it's hard to read one color of text on top of another, so that gives you the option to change it. Again, there's so many more different types of configurations you can use for these cards. I won't go into all of them. Okay, so there's that one. I have 3 of these. Let me go ahead and put those in for you, and then I'll come back in just a moment. Okay, so I went ahead and added the rest of them, and I went ahead and added also the button card because we don't need to go over that again. You've seen that enough times. One thing to note here too is that you can't get there's no visual editor for big number cards. So you can't do anything with outside the YAML code for this. You can do this for the big number card or the button card, but these others will not show up as visual editors because there's nothing there to do that. And it automatically defaults back to the code editor when you do that. But you can see here, I've got 3 of my cards here, and the only difference is the color. One of the things I did with the color on the 3rd card here, this humidity card, is rather than using the label CSS designator, I went ahead and just set the RGB values because I want this to get darker blue the more humid it is. Because, there's more water in the air, so I want darker blue. As it gets less humid, then it becomes lighter. And it does that in steps like I did before, like I showed you before, where it's up to this point 40, it's RGB 000, which is black. And then it progresses upward from there. And then again, of course, I did the guest lamp. All right, so that's that. And then we have another column or another row. So let's go ahead up here and we will add an additional row. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on. It seems like a lot to do here, but it's a lot of duplication as you start building this stuff out. So let me add another grid card. Once you get the hang of this, it just kind of goes, it kind of flows. Now this next card is kind of interesting, so I'll show it to you here. This is a custom button card. So we'll go ahead and put that in. I'm going to paste the code as I always do, and then I will walk through what this card does because this one's kind of interesting. It actually has some logic in it that will do some different things based on the wind speed. So let me paste this in, fix all of the business here, spacing. So now the spacing is correct. Let's go through it. You can see right now it's got the icon, the name, and then it's got the state. The state is important in this one because you want to know how fast this value or how fast the wind is going. So we have the name, max wind, entity is the entity we get the wind information from. Show state is true this time, which is the 805. Now the styles are going to vary depending on the wind speed. So we have the card of 100 pixels, height, opacity is 70%. 12 pixels for the font size, white color. Now this is where it gets interesting for these types of cards. You can do a lot with a custom button card. It is an amazing card. In this case, I want to change the value of the card if the value sent from the state is greater than or equal to 20. And that's what this operator does. So the value is 20, the operator is greater than or equal to. And then the styles are red, for the background color, that should be 100%. So 100% opacity, 100% pixels, because that's what we set in the original. And then the icon, the name, and the state are all going to be white. So it will appear in your face on that color. Now, if the value is 12, greater than or equal to 12, it will then set it to yellow with an opacity of 70%. And it changes the colors to black for the icon, name, and the state. And that way I know if it's yellow, it's, it's getting to be windy. And if it's red, it's really windy. And you've got to put it in these upside down order or it's not going to work. That's why I have 20 first, or the higher value first, and then the lower value second. And then we have a couple of just custom button cards that change value based on whether or not it's rained or whether it's currently raining. And I'll paste those in and then come back and talk about those in just a moment. Okay, I've pasted all these in now, and we've got the rain today, rain rate, and then I just went ahead and put these temperatures in here. All of them are custom button cards. So you have, again, you have a value and an operator of greater than. If it's greater than 0, then it starts to register for that one. Again, the same thing here. If it's greater than 0, it starts to register and changes the color for those custom button cards. For the fridge card, if the temperature is greater than 45, it turns it yellow to let me know there's a problem with the fridge temperature at a glance. And then the freezer temperature does the same thing, greater than 10, because it usually is negative values, as you can see here. So that one's very quick. Again, all the code's going to be in my GitHub for this particular dashboard. You can look over it and pull it apart and do stuff with it as you need to. All right, there's 2 more columns. I'm going to go ahead and paste those in here, and then we'll talk about how they're set up because this video is getting really long. Okay, so I've added the final 2 rows here, and one of them is going to be 6 columns, and the row number 8 is going to be 5 columns. Very similar to the other ones. We have custom button cards for this row because I set the temperatures, the cards to change color as the temperature climbs. So I want to know each one of these, 80, 95, 90, etc. And it goes through and it will alert me or give me a visual indication when the temperature gets kind of warm. And then finally in this row number 8 is a couple of different cards here for motion detection. This one is a turn on or off. So I can turn these on. This basically enables automation. So now these 2 automations are on for my cameras. If somebody comes into a zone in my Frigate cameras, or my Frigate in VR zones, it will send out an alert to my phone and tell me there's someone within the close-in zone. And I can toggle these on or off. And of course, these are all of my PBX extensions. And it gives me the status of whether or not the PBX line is in use or not. And that's nice to have on an office type dashboard. All right, so this particular recording got really long, which I figured it would. There's a lot of stuff going on in here. And all the stuff that goes on is useful for me when I'm sitting here at my desk. If you have any questions about this, let me know. I'm going to cover the other 2 columns in separate videos because this gets to be super long. Again, comments down below. And then Discord, I'm available there for questions if you have those, if we need to. And hope this was helpful to you. Dashboards are amazing in Home Assistant, and just building something like this allows you to customize how you want this to look. Make sure you subscribe so you know when I do version 2 or session 2 and session 2 of this dashboard build. And we'll see you on the next one.